Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello. Welcome to Thursday, January 7th. As 2016 just keeps on moving. I haven't had to write that yet. I haven't written a check or anything yet. But I do better in even-numbered years. I don't know what that means, but I like even numbers better than odd numbers, so that I think I fight more remembering years. Oh, don't even listen to a word I'm saying. It's just blather. So I just want to start out by talking a little bit of a sports story, and that is the Ken Griffey Jr.'s in selection for the Baseball Hall of Fame. I bring this up only because he's from around in here, kind of. His family hails from Donora, PA. And I just want to talk about the strangeness of the fact that that little town on the Monongahela River has a lot of distinctions for being such a small town. I first heard of Donora when I lived in Madison, Wisconsin, and I was kind of sort of seeing the editor of the alternative newspaper in Madison, Wisconsin. And he hailed from Donora, Pennsylvania. So that's the first I ever heard of it. And when I asked him a little bit about Donora, he then told me, his name was Vince O'Hearn. He then told me about the distinction of Donora in 1948 with the garbage coming out of the smokestacks of a U.S. Steel plant there. And a meteorological phenomenon called an inversion, in which all of that poison coming out of the smokestacks was literally trapped on the ground where people live in Donora for 4 days, so that the air in Donora became literally toxic. And this was one of the first environmental instances that got people's attention. Oh, the air we breathe can harm us? The stuff coming out of those smokestacks where we all work can kill us? Because something like 20 people died from it. I suppose it struck mostly, the ones we now warn, elderly people, children with, asthma, blah, 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 respiratory. So people were dying. Now, the other weird thing, though, is that this little town, Donora, gave rise to 2 Baseball Hall of Famers. I mean, a little town. But it's not just that. So now Ken Griffey Jr., but the fact is the first Hall of Famer from Donora is the incomparable Stan Musial. Cardinals, right? Damn Cardinals. So it gets odder, though, and I did not know this. But someone wrote, get this, Ken Griffey Jr., who just was elected to the Hall of Fame, he wrote this about Ken Griffey Jr. years ago when he was playing. And he said, Bill James said, Ken Griffey Jr. is the second best, listen to these adjectives, second best left-handed hitting, left-handed throwing outfielder ever born, second best, in Donora, Pennsylvania on November 21st. How bizarre is that? That Stan Musial was born on November 21st. He ends up in the Baseball Hall of Fame as a left-hitting, left-throwing outfielder. If you look at a picture of the Donora High School baseball team, in 1939, 1939 Donora baseball team. There's Stan Musial. And directly in front of him is a guy named Buddy Griffey. They are on the same team. Stan Musial and Buddy Griffey, whose son, Ken Griffey, ends up in the Hall of Fame. And then his son and his grandson, Ken Griffey Jr., ends up in the Hall of Fame. So wait, they've got three. Donora then has three Baseball Hall of Famers with both Griffeys. That's pretty amazing. And the town, of course, is like all those little towns that on the rivers that relied on that black toxic crap for their jobs. It's suffering. It's a shadow of what it once was. Down to a few thousand people, I think. But they have, my God, they have bragging rights. It's so come down so much that there's no bank in Donora. There's no school now in Donora. There's no grocery store in Donora. There's no gas station. There's pretty much nothing in Donora. But they can call themselves a city of champions. Unbelievable. Both born on the same day in the same little town. Left-handed, left batting, outfield. It's weird. That's weird. I thought that was really neat. Okay. Do we want to talk about Marco Rubio's boots? Did you see him? Did we see him? I always think when a man wears a heel like that, they're, clearly trying to be taller. So if a man's wearing a heel like that, for some reason, I always think it makes him look shorter because then I think you're over. And then it turns out apparently he's 5'10". Nothing wrong with 5'10". You don't need to put on heels and be mocked. With the heels, he's almost 6 feet. But that's such a femmy boot. I mean, I have a boot just like that zips up the side. I thought that was just a female thing. Anyway, Marco, not a good look. And anything that allows your compatriots to mock you so easily, definitely not a good idea. Not a good idea. I'd lose the boots. You know what that heel is called? That's a little funny, too. Seeing as his ethnic derivation, he is the son of Cuban immigrants. That heel is called a Cuban heel. Don't ask me. That's just the way it is. Okay, before we get into heavy-duty stuff, no, I'll save that for after we get into heavy-duty stuff, and then that way we can look forward to some conversation that is not appalling. Okay, so here's somebody who annoys me so much that he's been annoying me for years. He's been annoying me before he was the Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court. This is that idiot, Roy Moore, his name is. I'm trying to remember all the things he's done since I've been doing what I do, which is squawking and screaming on air. But it seems like for some reason Roy S. Moore The S is for stupid. Roy S. Moore, he was behind an effort to keep the Ten Commandments in, I don't know, I can't even remember, in schools and all over the place where they really just didn't belong. I mean, he doesn't get it. He doesn't get basic constitutional principles, which is an odd thing for someone who is the Chief Justice of a state Supreme Court. I mean, it's like he didn't even go to Law 101, where you sort of find out how the laws in America work, how, there is a Supreme Court of the United States, and there are Supreme Courts of the states, but the Supreme Court of the United States, that's the supremest of all. And so when the Supreme Court of the United States says that people of the same gender can marry legally, can be issued certificates, marriage certificates, and wed, that's end of story. But this idiot, sitting high atop the, I'm sure, illustrious Alabama Supreme Court, says that he put out an order saying that no judges in Alabama were to issue marriage licenses. Well, you can't. You friggin' fool! You can't do that. You just can't. It's sort of like the guys up there in Oregon. These people engage in farces, charades, performance art. I mean, you could call it that. If they were artists, I might, give them all right, I see what you're trying to do here. But they're clowns. It's also akin to the first thing that the Congress of the United States does, the House, when they come back for another year of doing absolutely nothing and getting paid handsomely for it. The first thing they did, what'd they do? That's right. They passed a bill nuking Obamacare. And they passed a bill defunding Planned Parenthood. They sent, as we learned from our civics classes, those two bills will end up, oh, no, wait. Did the Senate pass them? They'll be vetoed. They have no chance whatsoever. We got a president in the Oval Office named Obama. I don't think he's going to sign off on a bill destroying his signature. Signature what? Signature success, triumph. What? Law? Whatever. Historic signature thingamajiggy. So they waste our time. All of this stuff is a waste of time, a waste of energy, a waste of resources, and it is like theater. It annoys the hell out of me. And then think of the idiots who supposedly represent us in Harrisburg. We still don't have a budget. And it's time to start working out the budget for next year. We don't have a budget for last year, for this year, for whatever. They are so fucked up. I'm sick of it. And they wonder why people get, cynical. You wonder. So there's all this stuff about, because the president's doing this, he came out with these executive order things to try to maybe save one or two lives from needless victimization through guns. And the fact that this country is just so suffused in every way with guns. There's no other country on earth like us. Again, peculiar. I said it yesterday. we're not exceptional. We're peculiar. And much of the rest of the world looks at some of our foibles and scratches their head in disbelief. Peculiar. Peculiar in that after, some crazy murderous SOB guns down 20 children in a school and 3 of their teachers, more Americans run out to get more guns, and more state legislatures pass laws that make guns even more available to anybody and everybody. Exactly the reverse of what a rational reaction to that horror would have been. When I first heard that there were people who were claiming that Sandy Hook never happened, that it was a staged thing, that it was a staged effort, it was done with actors, totally phony situation, and it was an attempt by the Obama administration to get your guns. The assumption being that if they staged this horrible massacre of children, that Americans would somehow renounce their peculiarity and become rational beings and be desirous of true gun control legislation. I mean, I thought, do you have to be out? Who would believe that Sandy Hook wasn't real? Well, I got the name of one person. His name is James Tracy. Have you heard of him? Here's what's amazing. He's a college professor. A tenured college professor. Some college in Boca Raton, Florida. Well, wrong tense. He was a professor. The university finally figured out how to can him because he was tenured. It ain't easy. They canned him. And they canned him for, listen to some of what he said. First of all, this guy has maintained from day one that Sandy Hook and a lot of other, probably San Bernardino and all these things, are hoaxes designed by the Obama administration to boost support for gun control. This guy got canned Tuesday. Listen to what he had done. He had a blog, and he had a Facebook page or a page for his blog. And on that, he had the picture of the youngest little kid killed that day. 6-year-old Noah Posner. And Noah's parents wrote to him and said, please remove the picture of our dead son Noah from your repulsive page and blog. And do you know what this professor did in response? He sent these still grieving parents a certified letter demanding proof that Noah, their dead son, had ever existed, and demanding proof that they were his parents. What kind of a vile human being would you have to be? He wrote this: the Posners, alas, are as phony as the drill itself, and profiting handsomely from the fake death of their fake son. What's with people? Jeez. So I was talking the other day about how I'm so sick and tired of Americans being so friggin' scared all the time. And then there's stupid reactions to being scared. I'm going to go get a gun. So it turns out that all over this country, police departments and other institutions are holding classes and seminars on how to survive a mass shooting. And people are flocking to these things. They come, rapt attention, probably taking notes. They want, and one guy who was at a recent one, a 23-year-old, I mean, how, a 23-year-old, and he says, you can never be too safe. Well, yes, you can. I think. Here's what they're told. There was a recent one in a place called Douglasville, Georgia, which is somewhere outside of Atlanta. A Citizen's Guide to Planning for Survival. We got a caller. Hang on. Hello? Hello? Caller? No? No one home? Okay. And listen to what... So the chief of police held this, and there's a ton of people. They're standing room only. Frightened Americans wanting to prepare for how to survive a mass shooting incident. Do you feel like that's something that you need to know? Is that something you would take time out? You would? To me, this is insane. Okay, here's what the chief of police told him. He told him you have to be ready to use maximum aggression, okay? And he says this. You can't go out here and not have a mindset to win the fight. Can't go around here with no sheepish type mindset. There ain't no sheepdogs. Everybody in Douglasville, we tigers, lions, bears, elephants, whatever you want to be. That's the chief of police. People hanging on his every word. These are the people that go and buy guns, who cannot stop buying guns, who cannot stop being afraid. What do they ever look at what the odds are? Do they ever look at what the odds are where they would... I mean, I pay enough attention to know that if, God forbid, I find myself in one of those situations, I mean, I've read enough to know that I should, first of all, just try to collect myself and then try to get the hell out. If I can't get the hell out, I'd become part of a effort to take down the guy. If I die doing it, it's better to die fighting than to, just hide under a table waiting for him to kill you. Here's the chief of police again. Keep your head on a swivel. Continually triage potential threats. This is what you're supposed to do when you're in the grocery store. He's telling them, you go to the grocery store, you keep your head on a constant swivel. You triage potential threats. Who is that lurking behind the frozen foods? You incessantly toggle through angles of escape and plans of attack. All you tigers, lions, and bears. I feel like I'm living in some crazy movie, like a Monty Python sketch. I can't even... I mean, he literally talks about the fact, he tells people that before they go to the grocery store, they should Google the floor plan. Before you go to a concert, a stadium, anything, Google the floor plan. Plot your avenues of escape. Always know when you're in any place, find a place where you could hide. There are Americans now with guns on them who are in this hyper-vigilant state, or trying to be, all the time, because they want to be ready for when the mass... I don't know who they're afraid of exactly. I'm afraid of people like them. They're afraid of brown-skinned and black-skinned people, I think. I don't want a bunch of gun-toting, hyper-vigilant heads on a swivel, Googling floor plans. And I don't want those people around me. Because their hypervigilance is frightening to me. What would they perceive as a threat? I mean, the slightest little thing, and bang, they think it's a threat. And bang, literally. These people scare the crap out of me. Surviving a mass shooting. It's all the rage. Actually, I am a card-carrying member of one organization that does, in fact, train its people on how to survive a situation like this. And I wholeheartedly defend that. I'm talking about Planned Parenthood. All the people, almost all women, who work for Planned Parenthood all over this country are trained in how to survive. And we know they have a real threat to deal with. There's a Planned Parenthood right over here. Believe me. That place is about as secure as a place could be. Amazing, huh? For a place that is involved with women's health. Amazing. Armed to the teeth. Hello? Hello, caller? All right, what's happening? Nothing's different. Something's wrong. Okay, I got some emails here. Chuck. After a few years of Obamacare under our belts, many in the health insurance market are now saying that reversing Obamacare would cost billions of dollars and create chaos in the insurance industry. The industry is unprepared for a new president to simply strike down Obamacare. Well, let's understand one thing. If we elect a Republican president, they can do it, and they will do it. It's one of their signature. It's what they've told their base. Now that they got the Congress, if they get the White House, they will repeal it. They will do all kinds of stuff. Chuck writes, I just got a bill from my daughter's university saying I owe them $2,000, and that's because the state can't pass a damn budget, which in turn would release the money for the Pittsburgh higher education, whatever, grants. Thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of students who depend on grants from the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency are in the same boat. These idiots in Harrisburg. Oh, God. Nancy writes, Lynn, I work for UPMC, and we have had active shooter drills for some time. Reviewing the active shooter protocol is part of our annual required training. Yeah, I understand that a business that had, UPMC has been attacked, right? People who work for UPMC have died as a result of people entering that facility with a gun. So, yes, it makes sense for employers to make sure that employees know what to do, God forbid, in the case. It's sort of like a fire alarm drill, right? But for regular, ordinary citizens, the odds, first of all, the odds that, your place of employment will be attacked are so tiny. But I see that as a prudent and probably making sure they don't have a bunch of lawsuits aimed at them for not properly securing their staff if, in fact, an incident were to happen in which people are killed. Because after the killings at UPMC, there were a lot of lawsuits filed, understandably. So I'm sure legal departments of many, many, many corporations and employers are saying we've got to make sure that we can check that off so that, God forbid, this should happen, we will be able to say we trained our people, we provided them with this, that, and the other thing, and unfortunately this still happened and blah, blah, blah. So just limiting their legal liability is why I would think. But you can bet people working at Planned Parenthood clinics have to deal with this kind of stuff all the time. I understand UPMC. I understand schools because schools have been shot up. But there's a quote from some woman in one of these articles who says, I was at the mall. And I'm sitting there and thinking, what if an active shooter were to start up? I'd be a sitting duck. So she decided, sitting there in the mall, she was going straight to the gun store. Fear. Yeah, it's Clarence saying he can't get through. He's trying to call. We don't know.
I've done it the same every time.
You're sure something ain't. Something is not right. Sorry, Clarence. We'll work on it. Gigi writes, good morning. Thank you for talking about this story about the god-awful professor. I read it this morning and it made me sick. Yeah, it does. It makes you sick. You can't imagine a person torturing those parents and families who have lost their babies. And he taunts them with the fact that their babies were made up. They never lived. This whole thing was some kind of a scam, a sham. You've got to be evil to do that. Gigi writes, I understand people coming up with wacky conspiracy theories, but I cannot understand the cruelty of this man. I identify with you. I am so tired of hearing about people being afraid. I have previously reasonable friends who are arming themselves. I just don't get, no. And I swear, they're making themselves less safe. They're making you less safe. They're making me less safe. You can see the trained law enforcement officers when all of a sudden, bang, faced with a scary situation. Some of them, with all their training, lose it and kill innocent people. So what would a bunch of scared people, starting out with scared people are probably live their lives on much more of a hair trigger kind of thing. They're ready to fight or flee faster than like I am, clearly. Now, I point to the fact that I'm alive. I've never been hypervigilant. I believe that it saps your ability to just live your life. Why would you want to live in that kind of a state? If you lived in a war zone, I can understand it. And we're getting close to living in a war zone because of all you idiots with guns. All right. Okay. So, I'm going to stop. No, I'm not. Just checking the time. So, okay, just a few more things on guns that came by my eyes today. The business section of the New York Times points out that a lot of these people who play the market are investing in gun stocks. It is a smart purchase, to buy that stock, because when you see a product that's as hot as guns are in this country, might as well own some stock in Smith and what is it? Smith and Wesson? Is it? Yeah. All of a sudden, it struck me that was cooking oil. Oh, that's Wesson. I don't know. Smith and Wesson. So it turns out that Smith and Wesson, their stock has, since Obama took office, gone up 900%. 900%. Yeah, so if you bought it when Obama was inaugurated the first time, and then you can try to answer that and see what happens. Hello?
Hello.
Oh, my.
Now it's working, huh?
I guess so.
No, when you were talking about the guns, when did they allow, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, the machine gun style, the semi-automatics, when did they allow residents to have those?
Yeah,
that's...
I'm not sure.
And that was the biggest mistake, because they come in and they kill 20 people in no time flat.
Right.
Instead of just pistols and rifles and shotguns and that. And that there, unless they can pull that back and change that, I can understand you want to pass a law like Obama with that. I just don't see it changing that much.
You're right. And I don't know. That's a relatively recent thing.
I couldn't believe it when I heard people were allowed to have. When I first heard it, I thought, my God, they have better equipment than the cops do.
Yeah.
And that's the big problem right there. So they got to turn into the military over it, because they got to keep up with it.
So, yeah, it's probably perfectly legal in this country to have a Sidewinder missile in your garage.
I wouldn't doubt it. It's unreal. What do you need? And then if you want to shoot one, why couldn't they just have them at gun ranges and you use it and you leave it there?
Exactly.
I don't understand to think of any of that. You can't. What are you going to do? Mow down a bear with it or something? I don't understand it.
I don't understand it either. And you know what? We're in the majority. Even with what Obama did the other day, like just making more people who are selling guns have to do background checks. This is not anything that the American people disagree with. Yeah, Republicans, something like 89% of Republicans do agree that that's a reasonable thing to do. 98% of Democrats think it's a reasonable thing to do. So you have to wonder what the Republican Party and some Democrats, what the hell is going on when the people... They refuse to do what the people want done because they owe their hearts and souls and livelihoods to the fucking NRA.
Well, yeah, they want to sell the guns. That's what it's all about.
Well, if you want to make some money, it's not the right time to buy. You buy low and sell high. But we all could have made a bundle as soon as Obama got into office, buying stock in these gun companies, because they've really their stock is up 900% in Obama's, and one of the guys on Wall Street is quoted as saying, he said this on CNBC or something, that Barack Obama is the greatest gun seller in the world.
Yeah, that's right.
Jesus, you wonder why he cries. Almost 250,000 Americans have died from gunshots, wounds in this country since he's been in office. Do you believe that?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye. Thank you. Okay. Jesus. So I think it's Nick Kristof. What am I trying to write? Nick Kristof. Pointing out that, it's quite clear. Missouri recently, we've talked about this before, Missouri recently loosened its gun control. One of the smart states. Man, they're smart there. Loosened their gun control and saw their homicide rate skyrocket by what? I'm trying to find the exact number. 25% rise in firearm homicides since Missouri made it easier to get guns. 25% more people killed there because of it. Connecticut, at about the same time, made it harder for people to buy guns in Connecticut. And guess where their homicide rate went? It went down by 40%. We'll try to take a call. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Is this Lynn Cullen?
Yes, it is. Hi.
I was just wondering if I could make a comment.
Yes, sure. Make a comment. Go ahead.
I just wanted to tell her, she's talking about guns today. I was sick last night. I saw on CNN that the NRA wants the Congress to pass a law that the police are supposed to resell all the guns that they've taken off the streets.
God! Oh, you know what? It'll sail through this Congress. That'll sail through this. They do the bidding of the NRA. Unbelievable.
I know, and it just...
Oh, God.
That man, what is the head of the NRA's...
Wayne LaPierre?
Yes. He was... They were showing him on there, and said that he wants them to pass a law where the police cannot destroy those guns. They should be resold on the street.
Preferably to a lunatic.
Probably.
God! They should be passed out in mental institutions. And yes, God! Okay, thank you for that, I think.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good to hear a new caller, too. Oh, my God! Gun control measures do work. Missouri loosens theirs, homicide go up. Connecticut strengthens their gun control laws, homicides plummet 40%. We know, and this is all in the same range. The states with the toughest gun control laws have the lowest homicide rates. Here, Massachusetts, New York State. Very tough in terms for an American state. Your chances of dying from a gun, if you live in Massachusetts or New York State, are 3 per 100,000 people. That's how many die. 3 people out of 100,000 every year. I'll take those odds, I guess. If you live in Alaska or Louisiana, both have extremely loose, if non-existent, gun control measures. That goes from 3 per 100,000 to 19. So, these numbers don't lie. So anyway, Kristof says, while even Republican voters overwhelmingly say in polls that they favor sensible steps like universal background checks, the Republicans are politicizing what should be a public health issue. And they're scaring Americans into buying more guns, which magnifies the problem and, in fact, causes more carnage. Here, they're going to do it again, the woman who called. The NRA wants cops to have to give back guns that were used already to kill. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Someone told me the other day, only old ladies say "oh dear," and I should stop. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh, what the hell are you going to say? I can say "oh dear," or I can say "what the yeah, right." You know, old ladies can say that too. Roger writes, December 26th. My wife, daughter, and I went to see the new Star Wars movie at the Settlers Ridge Theater in Robinson. I'm not a paranoid person, or I thought not. When we got inside the theater, seating was limited, so we ended up sitting at the very front top row, one seat from the middle. The guy next to me was in the very center seat of the top row, was by himself, and Middle Eastern, dark-skinned, I think. You're kidding, Roger. I have to say that during the previews, my imagination went wild. Why is this young man sitting by himself? He certainly has a great vantage point if he had a gun and wanted to take out a large group of people. This is what's going through your head? I have to be honest, he says. Using my peripheral vision, I kept my eyes on his hands the entire time. You mean rather than watch the movie, you were watching this poor brown-skinned man's hands? After a few days, I confessed my concern and irrational fear to my wife. Now you're confessing to all of us. Oh, God. I feel really bad. Oh, Roger. So even a rational being like you gets infected, right? Wow. Wow. Well, I credit you for being willing to share that. I really do. I do. Good for you. I mean, the way you combat that kind of irrational fear is by owning up to it and then calling yourself. You called yourself on the carpet, but that's because you're not immune to this fear-mongering. You're not. None of us are. Hello.
Hi, Lynn.
Yes.
Oh, hi. I'm a little behind on your show, but
That's okay.
I wanted to give you one example of how stressful it is to be vigilant. My daughter, a couple of years ago, became an FBI agent.
Oh.
And she came up here, and we had to go to the bank, and she was doing something with her ankle. And I'm thinking, what's she doing? And I said, what are you doing? She says, well, I have to put my gun on because when I go out, I have to be ready to
act.
To react,
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, she's on vacation. But anyway, she had to do this, and we get in the bank, and I became paranoid. I thought, oh, my Lord, now, let's see, where will I hide if something comes up? But by the time I went out, I was so stressed from that one event 2 years ago or 4 years ago.
What?
I'll
Just
never
that?
forget it.
Right,
So I don't know how these people do it 24/7,
Yeah, you mean just the fact that she had to carry a gun made you nervous that
Yes.
because it
And then
makes
I
you
think-
aware that bad things can happen, but it becomes something that's, if it's central to your emotional life constantly, I mean, you can't live that way.
No, well, I like I said, I did it one time, and I was totally stressed leaving the bank. And I'm thinking, and this policeman is telling, or the state, or, the cop, whatever, chief of police is telling them to be vigilant at all times. I thought, you'll have a nervous breakdown. All these people will go nuts. No wonder they're carrying guns. They become paranoid and nuts.
Unbelievable.
I only did it once, and I never forgot the event, nor did I have a gun.
You know what? I mean, so here, I just have one fact. Not that facts penetrate all of this sort of, knee-jerk emotion of fear. But, these mass shootings that we've been seeing, do you know that they make up, the death toll from those shootings, make up a minuscule amount of the 32,000 Americans killed every year.
Yeah, I'm not hearing you very well. I'm
Okay, you can hang up. Huh? Go ahead, hang up,
anyway,
and thank
I just wanted to repeat that one event that I never forgot, and I was totally stressed, and Even talking about it stresses me out, and I can't imagine being like that 24/7. You know?
Okay. Well, forget about it and go on with your day.
I did. I had forgotten about it. Next time I went in, I just went back to normal. But you repeat, telling us this on your show reminded me of it, and I said I got to call and tell you my experience of one time.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, it's a red letter day. We've had 2 female callers. It's not the norm, and I haven't heard those voices before. I love it. Yay! Way to start the new year, ladies! So here's the thing. Americans are more scared than they've ever been. They're going and getting guns. Nice guys like Roger are sitting in theaters, and because there's a brown-skinned man, Middle Eastern looking, all by himself, he's sure he's about to be part of a massacre. We got another caller? Hang on. Okay. But well, get it. Yeah, okay. Here's the reality. Hi, caller.
Hello.
Hey, Clarence, let me just get one fact in here before we talk. Okay. So even as we feel like we're in more danger than ever before, here's the reality. 32,000 Americans get killed every year by guns. The number of Americans that get killed by guns in these mass shootings that everybody now is so fearful of is minuscule. Most Americans are killed by other Americans that they know. That's how they're all dying, or they're killing themselves through suicide. And guess what, guys? The overall crime rate in this United States of America, these United States of America, is reduced by half what it was in 1990. 1990, there was twice as much crime in the United States. We're safer than we've ever been, and yet more hysterical. What the hell is going on? I blame the Republicans, and I blame the media. Go for it, Clarence.
Word. I make that argument all the time when I'm arguing with people on Facebook about it. And then my final argument that just stopped people from, talking to me, I'm like, go ahead, buy your guns, because you're going to kill yourself or your kids with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be less of you to worry about.
Yeah.
And boy, did that get pissed people off. Man, it's just the truth.
It is the truth.
But the reason why, my original reason for trying to call earlier, I forgot.
Okay.
But the guy, the Star Wars movie guy, made me think of First Night, doing caricatures downtown.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I got there early, thinking there was going to be anywhere to park. So I'm just hanging out in Fifth Avenue Place, or whatever it's called now. And there was a young man, younger than me, standing by Vision Works. They had closed, and he needed his contacts for his wife because their flight was leaving on Saturday, and he needed his wife's contact lenses. And so a woman from the place called Vision Works to see if there was any way he can get his contacts. And I looked at him and said, yeah, I think you have to get to the airport, but tomorrow morning, it was Thursday. I said, you got to get there by Friday morning, don't you, so they can get you on a plane, because he was Middle Eastern.
Oh, yeah.
He looked at me and laughed, and I said, dude, you know how I look. I said, I have problems. I can't imagine what you go through.
Yeah, true.
You know?
True.
Yeah, and
it's so true.
And he started laughing. He was like a really nice kid, architect. Just sat there and had a conversation with him because I didn't have anything to do. The last caricature I did that night at 11, 5 hours straight of drawing. Guy sits down. Hey, how you doing? I'm fine. I said, so where are you from? Pakistan? I said, that's not what I meant, but thanks for telling me. He was,
what did you mean? You wanted to know it from...
because I ask everybody that so people can, focus on me. My first question is, where you from? Oakland and blah, blah. That's what I'm thinking, that he's going to give me one of those. And I said, oh. I said, what are you doing here? I'm a doctor. I said, well, dude, you don't look... I said, how old are you? 24. 24? He said, well, school's different in Pakistan. I said, okay. So I'm drawing him. Then I said, so how are people treating you, man? He looks at me and says, I had a lot of problems everywhere else, but Pittsburgh is pretty nice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he said Pittsburgh was treating him pretty well. I'm like, that's cool. I'm glad to hear it.
God almighty, it ain't easy.
Every time I, see somebody who looks, I don't care if they're Middle Eastern or not, but if they look that way, I ask that question. So, because, I walk through, life, being a suspect. that's now I said, yeah. I told the Pakistani kid, I said, thanks for taking some of the pressure off of me, man. I'm lesser of a threat that you exist.
Yeah, it could be. If you look Middle Eastern in your mail, you trump black males now.
You trump black males in certain situations. Can you imagine a Middle Eastern guy walking down one side of the street and a black guy walking down the other side of the street, and the white guy not knowing where to cross to? He walked down the middle of the street. He has to put his life on the. Do I get hit by a bus, or do I have to cross a black or a Muslim? That's what they should do. Those white lines in the middle of the highway, that's for white folks to walk, just in case. That's why they're white lines.
Oh, jeez. I'm glad we're laughing because I don't know what else to do.
There is really anything else to do. That's why you find so many minorities in the comedy business. There's really nothing else you can do.
Yeah, that's right.
Although, with the way the world's turning, we might find a lot more, WASP in the comedy.
Once they become a minority?
Yeah. They become a minority.
How many WASP comics are there? Seriously.
Unless you go to Britain.
Well,
I'm trying to think. Because I don't consider because there are a lot of Irish comedians. They're always out of Boston for some reason. But white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, I don't know. Except for the guys, who are, on the country comedy tour.
Well, there's
That's
people.
A good question.
Well, there's white guys. I don't know if they're.
Most of the white guys I know who are comedians are either, and for some reason I don't really consider Jewish people white. But
that's
they're
right.
Irish, and I don't consider them white.
They're Jews and Irish and blacks
and
increasingly darker skinned people. We're seeing a lot of Indian comics, right?
Yeah. Who's that one kid that was on? What is that? What's his name? He got a really good show on Netflix.
Aziz Ansari?
Oh yeah, I don't know if you show a show on Netflix.
Yeah,
that thing's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have checked it out.
I like him as a stand-up, but his that show's great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you got through finally. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, bye.
All right. Okay.
Bye. Well, geez, Louise. I guess that's kind of it for today. Started out a little tentative and rocky, and now here we are at 1 hour. I have some other things here, but I think I'll just keep them in abeyance for tomorrow's program, which will begin in 23 hours. Let's synchronize our watches now. Great. Okay. I don't know if you want to watch the president's thing on CNN tonight with the gun stuff. I don't think I can bear it myself, but we'll see. Okay? Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.